What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Thingos back again for another video, and today I'm going to be talking about something that I'm excited to talk about. I'm a huge fan of the Invincible comic book series, and I've been talking a lot about Invincible recently because they announced last year that they are currently working on an Invincible animated series for Amazon Prime. Now, I'm super excited about that because if it's anywhere close to as good as the comic book series, then we're in for a very good show. Now, I wanted to, over the course of the months leading up to the show, whenever it premieres, I wanted to drop a lot of different videos on Invincible talking about the series and characters and just information here and there, so that if you're lucky enough to stumble across my channel, you'll already have some information known about the series, so you won't just completely go in blind. Or if you're already a fan of Invincible, then you'll feel at home here, talking about a lot of stuff that you already know and would like to, discuss with more fans of the series. So today I wanted to be talking about the top 5, or what I think are the top 5 best, or, some of the best fights in the Invincible series. Now, of course, relax. There's way more intense fights that this series has to offer. This is just my first video doing this list. I will do a part 2 with the follow-up fights that I want to talk about. There's a lot more shocking and intense moments that happen in this franchise. Trust me, this series is full of them. So I'm going to be making a part 2, talking about some more of my favorite fights after this one. So if you want to talk about any fights that you'd like for me to mention in that one, then please let me know in the comments below. But I'm pretty sure I'm going to cover it all because I'm just getting started. Start off with number 5, Thrag versus Omni-Man. Now, in all honesty, this wasn't much of a fight, more like a quick and brutal scuffle in the middle of a huge galactic war. But at the end of the series, during the final battle, Omni-Man faces off against Thrag, the main antagonist of the series, and he takes a fatal blow when Thrag rips him in half. Now, he doesn't come completely undone, but it's enough damage dealt that for the first time in the series, we see that he can't heal and ends up dying in the process in front of his loved ones after the war is won, which is bittersweet. And on to the next number, we have number 4, Battle Beast versus Thrag. Now, this is one of my favorite moments in the series. Fan favorite Battle Beast really gets time to shine as he is asked to pursue and kill Thrag by Alan the Alien. You see, at this point in the story, the Voltramite War is finished and Alan the Alien has been placed in charge of the Coalition of Planets. But through a strange turn of events and an act of mercy, ironically from Omni-Man, Thrag survived. Alan, thinking this is a mistake made on the part of Omni-Man, he makes plans for Battle Beast to try and right the wrong, which leads to one of the most intense fights of the series. And unfortunately for Battle Beast, he actually loses, but he's always been in search through the galaxy for a proper challenge with a worthy opponent. So his final words before Thrag crushes his heart within his hands is "thank you." And as another show of respect for probably the strongest opponent Thrag has ever faced, he wears his fur on his shoulders everywhere he goes afterwards. Now, the third fight we're going to talk about is Invincible versus Angstrom Levi. This wasn't much of a fight either, but these characters have a lot of history with each other. Now, Angstrom Levi is sort of a rival to Invincible. They go at it a few times in the series, and he is responsible for the earth-shattering crossover event, the Invincible Wars, when he opened up portals to multiple dimensions, releasing different versions of Invincible that he controls and releases on the world in order to wreak havoc. More than that, though, in another video, I don't want to talk too much about the Invincible War now. But there was a smaller encounter between these two that happened prior to these events, which further fueled the rage, making him cause the trouble that he did in the first place. See, Invincible, he nearly beat Angstrom Levi to death, and the hatred that Angstrom has towards Invincible stemmed from when he interrupted a project the Mauler twins were working on to help Angstrom gain the knowledge of every dimension. but due to the process not finishing properly, he became horribly disfigured, and Invincible, he didn't help at all with that because Angstrom, angry as I said, went to Invincible's house and tried to cause harm to his mother, and this sent Mark in a rage, and he tackled Angstrom through one of his own portals, and he ended up beating him and punching him over and over, brutally just disfiguring and obliterating his face. And he survived at the last moment, but he was completely changed afterwards and would never look the same again, on top of the disfigurement that he already had. Now, the next fight I'm going to be talking about is Invincible versus Omni-Man. This fight is so iconic because this is father versus son, and at the time that this happened in the series, it was a huge twist, and I don't know if anybody was expecting it like me, but I certainly wasn't expecting it. So it just made for a whole lot of emotions going on top of the fight itself being very intense. I mean, they were breaking through buildings, they were breaking through the ground and destroying subways, they were flying all the way on other parts of the world, fighting where there's snow and glaciers and mountains, and then going back to the city and breaking skyscrapers. Like, it was very intense. And it was brutal, man. Not only in the physical damage, but just the emotions that were going on in this fight. You see, Invincible this entire time, he never knew the truth about his father, who he was, his Vulturmite heritage, and why his father actually came to Earth in the first place. All of this truth is dumped on Mark in that fight. And on top of learning all this stuff about his father that he never knew, he has to try to fight and defend Earth at the same time, and also defend his loved ones and his mother's honor by battling with his father vocally as much as he is physically. So the fight was very good, and it kind of sets the tone and the story for the rest of the series, because this is a lingering plot thread that gets picked back up in the future, and they keep going with it. So it's very entertaining, and it just keeps on just hammering the looming threat of the Vulturmites over your head. It keeps that intrigue and that vagueness, that mysteriousness there, but it also, like I said, opens the door to future story potential. So it's really good. I made a video earlier on my channel talking about season 1 possibilities for the show, and I stated how that would be a great place to end the first season, just to create a whole lot of interest in people wanting to come back and see what happens in the follow-up season, and to get people talking. So it's definitely one of the most important fights, even though it happens very early on in the series. And I wanted to end this list off with number 1, Invincible versus Conquest. Both fights. Now, if you are not an Invincible fan, just know the name Conquest is probably going to provide one of the best fights you have seen. I hope they animate this right. If they don't, then you can easily just read it when you read the Invincible series. This has to be probably one of the most intense fights, if not the most intense fight in the entire book, in the entire comic book series as a whole. One of the most intense fights I've ever read in any comic book. Invincible versus Conquest this is why I love comics right here. Like, this is why I read comics, bro. This fight is so good. It is so intense. Like, I can't even, the words haven't been invented yet for me to describe this fight. It is so much going on. And I think what made the fight so good to me, like what caught me so off guard with it, was that it literally came right after another huge fight, an earth-shattering event. You thought that maybe the characters needed a breath, you know, maybe they needed a second to gather themselves after what they just went through. And then out of nowhere, Conquest literally just comes floating and levitating down on Earth, and he just looks Mark Grayson in the face, and he tells him exactly who he is, pretty much declaring war. And Mark, you know, he is very angry at this point. You know, and for the people that don't know, I'm sorry if I keep confusing you, Invincible's real name is Mark Grayson. So just so you know, when I say Mark and Invincible, I'm talking about the same person. But yeah, so Mark feels responsible for what happened with Angstrom Levi. This is right after the Invincible War, so there's a lot of damage and debris to the city, and the heroes are doing cleanup, trying to help civilians that survived, and kind of trying to make the city look somewhat what it used to look like. They're on cleanup right now. They're trying to get over an event that literally damn near destroyed the city, and out of nowhere, like I said, Conquest, he just levitates and floats right down in front of Invincible, declares war, tells him who he is, and Invincible just tells him, look, everything that you see here, all the damage and death that you see around you, I am directly responsible for this. You have no idea what you're stepping into right now. All I want to do is punch something. All I've been wanting to do this whole time is find something to release my anger out on, to just go crazy. And you literally just came at the worst possible time. Like, you got no idea what's in store for you. I love this fight so much because Invincible is so gangster. He see this dude. He see how yoked this dude is. He know he is a Viltrumite. He know how strong this dude possibly is. But Invincible is so mad. He like, bruh, you got no idea about this fade you about to catch right now. You about to, like, it was so funny. And then they just ended it with both of them flying towards each other, just screaming. And it just, it segued into probably, like I said, I can't stress enough, probably one of the most intense fights I have read in a comic book. At least, in my history of reading comics, I don't think I've seen anything more intense. In American comics anyway, because one of my favorite series is Berserk, and that's a manga, and that can get pretty damn brutal. But this fight right here, this fight alone should be enough for you to want to check out Invincible. I kind of want to go into detail, man, but I went in so much detail about the other stuff. But this fight, man, I cannot ruin this fight for nobody. I will have in the thumbnail spoilers, so y'all know that this whole video is filled with spoilers. But I am not gonna spoil this fight for you. I refuse. Please, if you don't want to read Invincible for anything else, look up this fight, man. Anyway, guys, if you are a fan of Invincible and you know about all this stuff I talked about already, please comment. Let's start a dialogue. Let's talk about it. Tell me what you think your favorite fights are. Would you make a different list? Do you agree with this list? Let me know. Like and subscribe for more content like this as well. If you didn't like what I said, let me know that too. I welcome all criticism. And I hope you're having a good day, night, wherever you are. And until next time, guys, peace.